Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this red-green or gruul ramp deck that's trying to cheat out some of the biggest creatures in the format thanks to Raph and Mikey Troublemakers. Our 7-mana commander is a 7/7 with trample and haste, and whenever they attack we get to reveal cards from the top of our library until we reveal a creature card, and we get to put that card onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. And our curve goes up to 11 mana for Worldspine Worm in this deck, so we have the potential of dealing a ton of trample damage as soon as our commander attacks. And of course our deck consists mostly of early mana acceleration, so we can get to 7 mana as quickly as possible. One side note, of course, is that we're not allowed to play any cheap mana creatures, since then we risk hitting them when Raph and Mikey attacks. So all the mana acceleration in this deck consists of artifacts and sorceries that can put additional lands into play. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, we have a very large ramp section, a lot of 2 mana artifacts and sorceries, and then a bunch more at 4, so we can hopefully ramp from 2 mana to 4 mana to 7 mana, which is the ideal curve. Then we also have some sweepers in red to maybe keep the board clear if we're off to a slower start and the opponent puts a lot of stuff into play, and then we can maybe clear the board before deploying our commander. And then we get to the exciting part, which are all the creatures that we're hoping to put in play tapped and attacking. We could potentially make this list a little bit shorter, so we're more likely to hit the more powerful of these creatures, but to be honest, the power level is pretty close to each other, so as long as we're at 7 or more mana, most of these creatures will do, and that way we can also hardcast some of these if we draw them, so we don't just rely on our commander in case our opponent can shut it down, so we still have some alternate ways to win the game, and that also keeps it a little bit more exciting when we attack with Raph and Mikey, since we don't know for sure what we're gonna get. And then we've got a small miscellaneous section, decided not to include too many protection spells since that requires an extra mana, so then we cannot curve 2 into 4 into 7 as easily, but it is of course nice to have some instant speed hexproof tricks to protect your commander from instant speed removal, otherwise the opponent can shut it down. Still have a redirect lightning, Rhythm of the Wild helps against counter spells, and then Smuggler's Surprise is also pretty flexible, but can be another way for us to cheat our expensive creatures into play if we happen to draw a lot of them. So that's our deck in a nutshell. I don't think a deep dive is really necessary here, since all the cards are pretty self-explanatory, and hopefully we'll get to see most of our creatures in action in the gameplay. So yeah, let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Hei Bai, 5-color Shrines. This hand has potential. Would have loved it if this was a 2-mana artifact instead, but I'll still give it a shot. There's a chance Redirect Lightning will be useful. They might have some instant speed removal. And then Weathermaker sets up our 4-drops, of which we now have many. So turn to Rampant Growth. I wish we had our own. Can play the district instead. And then I'll keep a land, I think. So next turn Weathermaker, turn after Invasion. Yeah, I guess it's fine. Shouldn't really change my curve too much either way. So we'll see what Hei Bai has to offer. A Life Swap to make 1/1s. We do have a Besieged, which we could channel if needed, but they can keep this Honden for now. A bunch more ramp. And a champion to draw cards. Okay, opponent's definitely ahead here, but their hand may not be amazing. So this turn, I think we just Invasion, or we can map the frontier, which lets me surveil. Let's just Invasion. And that also triggers the Weathermaker a bunch. And then I can maybe afford to keep up Redirect Lightning here once again, in case they try to remove one of my permanents, or who knows, maybe cast a discard spell. Essence Flux. Yeah, I don't actually hate this. Target your spirits. Get rid of it. So no 1 mana shrine for you. Cleansing Fire's not the worst one. And a Cultivate. So they can triple block Raph if they hang back here. Although we could maybe also use the Weather Maker to deal 3. Opponent attacks anyway. We are down to 10, so we have to be somewhat careful. So dealing 3, again, not super helpful now that this picked up a counter. Yeah, Besieged on Life's Web is maybe not a bad idea. So then if I tap this for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we can channel for 1 mana. Okay. Either way I can attack the invasion to make an extra blocker. And we hit Italy, which can go face. And Italy finds Atarka and Swords to Plowshares, wow. Well, this is a blowout. Don't even know if destroying Hei Bai is necessarily worth it, since then they get more enchantments, but I'll do it anyway. Well, that one attack definitely turned the game around. This transforms. And our opponent's gonna scoop it up here, but still had a Besieged to deal with a Life's Web perhaps as well. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Celes, a Rune Knight, kind of a discard deck. Our hand's not bad, considering we start with the Gemstone Caverns. So we can get rid of Krang. Keep the cheaper Sire. And then turn to Explore. Or I can guarantee a... well, I guess it would be turn 1 Explore. Or we can guarantee a turn 2 Power Stone if I play this tapped first. Ooh, Ragavan, that's a problem. Now with Thornspire Verge, yeah, I'll be fine either way. So, let's explore. Can play this tapped. Ragavan will get to connect. Castle also contributes towards casting Raph Mikey. It's funny, opponent hidden into the north, they may not have a snow land in the deck, so it's not very useful to them. Although Unstoppable Slasher is a problem, since that can have our life total. So I guess we go for the invasion now. And then hope to draw land. So I guess we can go for the invasion now. So yeah, next turn. Thanks to Castle, I'll have 7 mana to cast Raph Mikey. Opponent's not going to be able to cast an Italy. And taps out for Celes. So at least they don't have any instant speed removal up. But we are forced to kind of attack here. Unless we want to go for Sire. But if they have any removal, then I'm probably better off going for Raph Mikey and at least get some board presence. Although, then again, we're guaranteed to take at least 8, and then the Slasher still triggers. So I think Sire's actually my only option here. So if they have an answer, we're dead. With first strike we can block a Slasher. Okay, opponent setting up their reanimation plan with a Priest, and we get to untap, drawing a Lightning Bolt. So there is hope. Can go for Raph Mikey. There's nothing too threatening they can reanimate right now. Or we can use this more as a setup turn. So I get to keep up lightning bolts and then either way attack here. Because yeah, we don't necessarily want Slasher to trade for Raph and Mikey. So how about I attack the invasion first. See how they block. That works. Gain 7. Make a 4-4. And then I'm kind of liking a relic with kicker. And then we still have lightning bolt available. Ooh, grief. Okay, how does that change matters? Yeah, I'm just debating whether or not I want to bolt the Slasher now. Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if they entered from a graveyard, +1 counter on each creature. So, taking out Slasher does trigger the Rune Knight. So I may as well bolt now. Deal with the Death Toucher. And then they probably take Rhythm at this point. Yeah, the opponent's creatures are going to get quite large as well. Priest is getting back the Enchanter. Although my relic is indestructible. So it's not particularly helpful other than getting +1 counters. So yeah, we need a good hit off for Raph and Mikey. But at least the coast seems clear. Let's see if this attacks reveal cards from the top. We haven't surveilled yet. So yeah, I guess I can set up the top of my deck a little bit. A relic, definitely not a card I'm interested in. Maybe I was better off surveilling afterwards to improve my next draw step instead. Thor Mammoth, okay. I can work with that. And our opponent cannot. Alright, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Momo, mono-white flyers. Those can be off to a quick start, although our hand's pretty decent. Turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, turn 2 Transformer plus Surveil. And a Balefire Dragon is going to struggle to connect in this matchup, but at least it's a large flyer. And Tempest Hawk, yep. So our opponent can potentially chain a whole bunch of those together. We can eventually go over the top of a bunch of 2/2 flyers. Still wouldn't mind drawing a board wipe. I will keep the land, however. And then next turn we're already in a position where we can cast one of our 7-drops. We'll see if they keep up interaction. Another Tempest Hawk for now. I can pay for Mana Tithe at least. So Raph and Mikey probably has the highest upside still. Although then again, our opponent could have like a Swords to Plowshares. In which case, at least a tally provides a bit of value. But I can recast this next turn already. So it's actually kind of a close call. Yeah, I think we still try this first. Do they have the swords? If they do, at least we gain 7. Alright, attack trigger goes off. And we get an Ancient Copper Dragon. So if they don't jump, we might get a whole bunch of extra treasure to cast more spells. Well, the fact that our opponent is trumping is good news. I see Brave the Elements to protect their stuff, so they don't actually lose the Hawk. Could have also been very effective if we ever got to a Balefire Dragon hitting them. So now our opponent needs to juggle keeping a blocker back for the Copper Dragon, perhaps. Take 6. Do have to watch out for the Rally of Wings, I believe it's called, which gives their flying creatures +2/+2, so that could kill us out of nowhere. There's a few other Anthem effects they might have. For now, just more Tempest Hawks. And our opponent's got 2 mana up. So, yeah, I think we start by attacking, see what happens. If Copper Dragon connects, we can cast both 7-drops. Our opponent had a Thraben Charm to take out our commander. Back to the command zone. Still like the attack. Opponent jumps. So now Balefire might be the play over Etali. Even though Etali could also hit one of their flyers. And do they have more removal? Another Tempest Hawk. They can cast 2 of them this turn. If I take out Momo, they can also recast it for 3, so I think I would rather block a Hawk. When I played the Momo deck, I believe I only had 10 Hawks in the deck, but possible our opponents going a bit harder on them. So now we control 2 must-block flyers, pretty much. And we can replay our commander next turn. If we get treasure, maybe still cast Etali afterwards. Ooh, split up. Okay. So Balefire's gone. Still don't really mind, since Drangolord Atarka was also a great top deck. So yeah, I guess we'll see here. If I cast this, I need to hit at least a 6 with Ancient Copper Dragon to still play Atarka. Yeah, I think I'll try my luck here. And we hit Krang as well. So I guess we just win the game. Alright, would have loved to see a d20 roll here, but I guess I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Kasmina, blue-green Super Friends, perhaps. Don't hate this hand, got some nice ramp, some interaction. Although this is one of our sweepers that doesn't hit Planeswalkers. So turn 2 Rampant Growth, get a Forest. We might have to worry about counter spells later, once we're ready to cast our commander. Alright, so if I draw a land next turn, that would be useful, so I can go Archive into Talisman. Otherwise, I could just cast a Relic. So Kasmina can quickly get a bunch of loyalty. We did draw the land. So then I prefer double spelling here. And could also get a Cinderglade, which is untapped. So next turn I should have the mana for Raph Mikey. opponent with Tamio, I guess can also keep things locked down, I believe. Yeah, so don't get to untap the archive. And Kasmina's getting ever closer to the -8 ultimate. So, yeah, that's a bit of a concern, but for now, I guess we just migration path. And we can try again next turn. If they have a counterspell in hand, we could be in trouble. They played Otawara when they could have channeled it. I guess they don't know that we don't have a land in hand. But they also could have channeled to bounce Raph before we got a chance to attack. So that kind of implies that they have more answers in hand, which does not bode well. Flux Channeler is fine. Okay, so our opponent actually tapped out. So unless they have a free counter spell, we'll get to play our commander and get a decent attack in. So I'll get another creature that can go after Kasmina. That creature may not have trample or flying to get past our blocker. So yeah, I guess we need to go after Kasmina first. And we got a World Spine Worm. Alright, I guess that can finish off Tamio. So had I gone face, I guess they could have still jumped to go to 2. But yeah, there's no way we risk it there. So Kasmina 2 loyalty. Although with a Flux Channeler, you never know. There's still a chance they can set up an ultimate. And a Reverse Rebuke is also pretty effective here, since we're not going to be recasting that World Spine Worm. So my hand's pretty clunky, really hoping for a land. We got it, so I get to replay Raph. I'll go after Kasmina again. And Woodfall Primus can go face, destroying a land. Got a discard to hand size. I guess we can discard the worm and then shuffle it back. So there's still a chance we hit it next. So our opponents got incredibly close to setting up some ultimates, but luckily we still got there in time. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Ozai, the Phoenix King. So opponent's going to be ramping into a hasty Firebender. Our hand's not bad. There's a decent chance they'll have some removal, so then Redirect Lightning could do some work. And we get to start with Utopia Sprawl. Don't have anything turn 2 at the moment. So we get to Surveil. But then Invasion should set up Raph and Mikey. Opponent's gonna demand answers, discarding Eaten Alive. And the Stockpile is next. Could blow it up with Boseiju, but that kind of defeats the purpose of destroying a ramp artifact. Maybe if they had played something like Black Market Connections, I would have considered it. Because that can also make treasure in addition to drawing cards. Voltborn is a nice card. You know, maybe it is worth keeping just as something I can cast in 2 turns. That's a bit better in the face of removal, and then the turn after we can go Raph and Mikey with Redirect Lightning as backup. Get a couple mountains. Opponent with Captain Linery is gonna get to make a treasure. Okay, so Voltborn is looking good. Galtan could be exciting too. But we'll start here. And draw Rampant Growth. And if they destroy it here, we'll get another token, so opponent's probably not going to. They do have the mana for Ozai. So we could see them combo off. Sticky Fingers to let a Linery attack past the Tyrant. So they are generating mana. With Ozai they can maybe set up additional attack steps as well. And Laughing Jasper. So now we have to debate between just casting Galta, putting in Terror, or going for Raph with Redirect Lightning backup, which might have higher upside if it actually works. So we'll try it. And yeah, opponent had the Infernal Grasp. I'll pay 5 life. And redirect it to Linery. And attack. Could go face, there's a chance we can just attack for lethal here. Could also go for the Invasion, which again triggers the Tyrants and leaves a blocker back. Woodfall Primus, okay. Attacks my opponents. And can blow up the stockpile. Not bad. So it would not quite have been a lethal attack. We're at 26, and I can still cast a Lightning Bolt. Yeah, I guess Lightning Bolt doesn't deal with Ozai, so I may as well deal with Jasper. So that was a pretty good turn. And our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Doran, Besieged by Time, so Abzan, High Toughness. This hand is close to being good. Mindstone into Vasud Surge would be a good curve, although I'm not guaranteed a third lane to cast it. I think I still try it. The upside's pretty high, and then Redirect Lightning could also be decent if we suspect some instant speed removal later. Ooh, Thoughtseize on 1. If I had a mountain up, I could have redirected it. And they did take the Mind Stone, although now I do get to surveil at least. And an Overgrown Zealot is next, makes a lot of sense in a high toughness deck. So yeah, looking for more ramp cards that I can cast. Center Glade I'll take, I guess. So if I draw another land, we could curve Vastwood into Raph Mikey, or maybe a Tally. Our opponent gets to tap out for Doran. And we did draw the lands. I guess we don't give them that information yet. But I am gonna be taking a beating here. If our opponent seems to be keeping up removal, I'll go for a tally and wait on redirect lightning for Raph. Tapestry Warden into a Root Weaver. And take 18. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. So, what's my hope here with Raph and Mikey? It's not like I'm gonna set up a one-hit KO, so I pretty much need to hit a removal spell. I might be more likely to get one through a tally, since we also get the opponent's deck. And that'll leave more blockers back. We found a Sire. Okay, that's actually pretty decent. And a Boots. Although the mana here is from Castle, so I cannot use it to equip the Boots. So we're not necessarily dead on board. Maybe they can deal with the Sire. We are very dead. Assault Formation, another way to attack and deal damage equal to toughness rather than power. Alright, I guess we can double block Doran. And then if they don't have anything, we would still be alive and get to trade for their commander. Opponent takes out Sire, we get to keep a tally. And Incubation Druid is next. Okay, so how much mana are we working with? 7, 8. So a little short of Bahamut, unfortunately. So I pretty much have to play Raph and then hope to hit it big. Because staying back is not necessarily going to work, because they can just kind of go wide. So I think we just have to go for Raph and hope for the best. Well, Worldspine Worm is definitely up there. So we have how much trample damage getting in? 29. Opponent's got 7, 8, 9 toughness. But they have to triple jump. Which means I still die if our opponent has an untapped land to cast Doran and attack with a Zealot. Yeah, they have to block with Incubation Druid. Their opponent's at 1, so their land cannot be a fetch land. Is there a point in equipping the boots? Probably not. I would rather save my life and keep up Redirect Lightning just in case. Alright, they had the untapped land, so that should be game over here. Zealot attacks, and that's going to hit for 8. And I cannot redirect this trigger, sadly. Alright, GG's. Very close one. Opponent had 1 life. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have a decent hand, 3 ramp cards, 3 lands facing Vraska, which can destroy our Iron Crag, but I think we'll still be okay between Explore and Cultivate. Opponent with a Birds of Paradise. So I get to Surveil on turn 1. And then maybe we favor Explore over the Iron Crag. Opponent's also surveilling with our Farseek. Okay, so the main concern in this matchup is going to be instant speed removal on our commander. Rampant growth, maybe even better than Explore here, just to guarantee the extra land. And Explore could be more useful later when I can play a land and still immediately tap it for mana. Also pairs well with Cultivate. Yeah, next turn we can explore into Cultivate, not give them any targets to destroy with Vraska's -3. Although we did draw another Talisman. Okay, so explore. Probably could have gotten the Cindered Glade there as well. Don't think we're gonna run out of basic lands, so it's not really a concern. So yeah, next turn I have the mana to cast my commander. We'll see if they keep up interaction or not. If they do, we can just keep on ramping. So yeah, opponent's keeping up 6 mana. I don't trust him. So we'll just root Talisman Ironcrag or Ironcrag Talisman. And I can actually cast Krang next turn. Vraska has an ultimate at -9, so we probably need to attack their commander first. And hope they don't have some sort of edict effect that gets around indestructible, since that's very much possible. Okay, here goes nothing. Do I transform the Ironcrag? I guess I may as well. So we can equip Krang and take out Vraska. So we don't risk dying to an ultimate. Alright, that worked. And yeah, now our opponent needs to deal with Krang, although they might have some sorcery speed edict effects. They do not, and our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Aang at the Crossroads, the clone army deck. Not gonna be an easy matchup. I do have a potentially pretty early 7 mana for my commander here if we draw 2 lands naturally with exploration into invasion. I'll give it a shot. Map the frontier. Could still be okay if we do indeed draw 1 more land next turn. Because we need to get on the board before they can cast their commander, pretty much. Alright, Smuggler Surprise can still dig for lands, so we'll do that now. And we found some. So that's very helpful. And Blade Splicer, so it's possible they're not going all in on the clones if they're playing a bunch of these cheaper creatures as well. Which I think bodes well for us, because, well, we can get on the board quickly. If our opponent's got a big combo turn, they could eventually overwhelm us. Don't need Power Stone anymore. So this turn we get to play an invasion or a map. Maybe I prefer invasion as something I can attack to make an extra 4/4 next turn. Map would let me surveil with the desert. So we'll see if they keep up interaction here. Katara, so that can help Aang trigger multiple times. They do still technically have a mana up, but they might tap out with a Surveil land here. Okay, so coast is clear. Just gotta hope for the best. Or is there anything else I want to do? Woodfall Primus can destroy a land. Maybe that's actually better for now, just to slow them down. Sure. Opponent does have the rampant growth, so it was only a small delay. Although now Storm's Wrath is actually pretty good too, because without Katara, Aang is a lot less scary. So close call. I mean, it's possible Storm's Wrath can also clean up whatever Aang leaves behind. So maybe we still go big here. And then I don't think I bother attacking the invasion since we're probably going to Storm's Wrath next turn. We hit the Adamantoise, so that should protect us from potentially dying next turn. Opponent falls to 2. And our opponent scoops it up. I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Imskir, Iron Eater, so Rakdos Affinity. Blasphemous Act could be decent, although a lot of their artifacts are not necessarily creatures. And then it's just map the frontier. I do get a Surveil to maybe find another ramp card. This one's borderline. I think I take a mulligan just because I don't know how many creatures our opponent's necessarily gonna play into the Blasphemous Act. This is all 2-mana ramp artifacts. I guess it's not terrible. Play the tapped ones first and then the untapped ones later. And redraw the Colossus anyway. So I get to Surveil. Pretty much want another land here. Ooh, turn to Dark Ritual. So we'll see what they can cast. Pantat Prism with 2 charge counters. And a Collector's Vault. So it could have been worse, I guess. So we get to Surveil and look for land. And that is a land. It's not the one I would have preferred, but it's not necessarily terrible here. Can also maybe pick up our Surveil land again. And it does ensure 2 more land drops going forward. So I can go, let's say, Signet into Transformer, pick up maybe just a forest. And the rest is gonna have a look. Well, my hand is incredibly redundant. They probably take the Arcane Signet, but Talisman can do a similar job. Takes a Wolfwillow Haven, actually. I guess it can later make a wolf. Okay, so now with the untapped land, does that change anything in my sequencing? I don't think so. Just pick up the untapped land. And then next turn I already have the mana for Raph and Mikey. Opponent's probably casting their commander this turn, which will hopefully leave them tapped out so they can't interact with my commander. Ooh, Carnage Interpreter. Getting to make 4 clue tokens. Yeah, and then Imskir draws 4 as well. Well, that was quite the turn. Opponent also now has 8 toughness back, so they can actually set up a decent trade for Raph and Mikey. Although we did end up redrawing that Blasphemous Act, which I could now also cast. Although taking out Imskir is not necessarily an advantage, when our opponent can easily recast it. So yeah, tricky spot. I think Raph and Mikey still has a little bit more upside, because we could hit something big, and it's not going to take me long to recast. Versus Blasphemous Acts, opponent replays this, draws even more cards. Alright, Krang's not bad. It's gonna be difficult for them to get rid of. So I actually don't think I take out Imskir. Their ability to deal damage doesn't seem very relevant since all their artifacts are cheap. And then Blasphemous Act is great with an indestructible creature out. Opponent got rid of a Blood Moon. Actually would have been somewhat decent at shutting down the Archway. They're doing a lot of discarding and drawing, so possible they have a reanimation angle as well. Okay, so I'm gonna be a bit short of recasting Raph and Mikey. So instead, do we Blasphemous Act? I don't hate it. Although, setting up a hasty Darksteel Colossus next turn would be pretty epic. But if I deal with Imskir and they recast it, they lose life and die. So that seems fine to me. And our opponent cast the Thoughtseize, so they're gonna go out on their own terms. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Rofellos. A very tough matchup, since we do not have much early interaction. Did actually draw Lightning Bolt in my opening hand, which is great. The problem is, the rest of my hand, only one ramp card, 3 bricks that I'm not going to be able to cast for a while. So I think it's still a mulligan, sadly. Okay, this I can maybe work with. Exploration for ramp, and then Anger of the Gods to deal with Rofellos. Still need to hit some other ramp cards, but at 6 mana the Copper Dragon's a bit more realistic at least. And then Wooded Foothills can also surveil. Okay, so Anger of the Gods is going to get a nice 2-for-1. And then Utopia Sprawl. Yeah, I guess it's good enough since we can play it alongside Anger of the Gods. Alright, Rofellos has given up, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Michelangelo, Weirdness to 11, so +1 counters. This hand's got a few too many curve toppers and not quite enough ramp. This is a 1-lander. This I can try. And then do we like Terror or Voltborn Tyrant? Against counters, the evasion could be more important, but maybe we want to draw a few extra cards. So we get to cultivate now, even better. Next turn we can root. And then turn after, cast our commander, perhaps. Ooh, Hardened Scales is pretty scary too here. So I can root and then still surveil. Scythecat Cub also quite powerful, especially if they have a fetch land left over. Just a snow basic. And the Crawler. So that 1 counter turns into 3 counters. Michelangelo 7/7. And they're gonna keep it back so they can maybe trade for Raph and Mikey. But they are tapped out. So we'll still try it here. And Krang was a pretty nice hit. Opponent takes the trade, although next turn we can replay our commander. And they now need to deal with a 9/9 flying indestructible. Nykthos does generate a lot of mana next turn. Grab an 8/8, so can hold off Raph and Mikey, but our opponent's swinging now. Well, we have a pretty good chance of just winning here with Raph and Mikey, since the opponent only has 1 toughness back. So yeah, we got to see this gruul ramp deck in action, and Raph and Mikey did not disappoint. This deck is very reminiscent of the Itali ramp decks, which are also trying to get to 7 mana as quickly as possible to cast their commander and hope for the best. Here there are of course a few differences. Raph and Mikey get to trigger once each turn, so over time they can potentially provide a bit more value, but especially the creature entering tapped and attacking means you can close out games a lot faster. The upside of Itali is that it's more resilient against removal, since even if Itali gets destroyed you still got a bunch of value. Maybe you hit another ramp card to help you recast your commander and pay for the commander tax. We don't have that luxury with Raph and Mikey. And of course Itali is also going to be a bit more powerful in multiplayer, where you get to hit a card of each opponent's library as opposed to just one. But in Brawl, I do think Raph and Mikey has the potential of surpassing the Elder Dinosaur. So yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.